Thanks for tuning in. This is Tyler Lawson here with my first ever podcast, and I'll start off with the Roberto Luongo saga. As we all know, Mike Gill is saying there's a potential deal out there. I ultimately believe that nothing's really changed with the Roberto Luongo. Maybe there is a deal brewing, but I don't think that this is like a deal that within the next 15 minutes that Gillis is going to be sending Luongo out of Vancouver. Ultimately, I think the fans need just to wait a bit, and this could just be something for Mike Gillis just to get teams more back involved. He definitely does want to make a move and acquire a second line center with Kessler and Booth sidelined. He'll definitely want to get something done. So, just if you guys don't know already, I'm pretty sure everyone should, but Gillis talking with the Vancouver Sun, and in their article today, Mike Gillis saying this, quote unquote, "We have a potential deal in place with one team that has to do something with another player that they have. And it's not who anybody thinks it is. And so we have to wait. We've been offered packages that don't fit what our plan is and what we need." So that's what Mike Gillis says. And there's a line in this that says, "something with another player that they have." To me, that's an overall hint. I think that there could be maybe a no trade clause or a no movement clause in this deal, a player coming back to Vancouver maybe. I looked at a couple teams, people saying that the Philadelphia Flyers, Toronto Maple Leafs, Florida Panthers, Edmonton Oilers, Washington Capitals, Chicago Blackhawks, and saying that they are interested. Looking at the Florida Panthers, Stephen Weiss, I think, would have to be a guy that the Vancouver Canucks would have to get back in this deal from the Florida Panthers. And if they do, just look at him. He is going to become a UFA at the end of the year. He makes $3.1 million this season, UFA at the end of the year. He is not going to re-sign in Florida. So there's no guarantee. This is a big gamble for Mike Gillis if he wants to do this deal. There's no guarantee that he will be back in a Vancouver uniform. You don't want to trade a guy like Roberto Luongo for a guy who's just going to play the rest of this shortened season and he's gone. They definitely going to have to get a deal done. And you don't know how much money he wants. If he wants too much and the Vancouver Canucks don't want to give him that much, you're going to lose him. So that's not a great destination, in my opinion, for Luongo to go. But he does have a no movement clause, so he would waive though to go to Vancouver. It's pretty obvious. And Jose Theodore, he has a no trade clause. He might come back in the deal. He's a starter right now in Florida. He could come back, and he would be, in my opinion, a great backup for Corey Schneider. He's a veteran guy. He could be a reliable guy if Schneider, ever doesn't perform. He's no Roberto Luongo. He's not a guy that's going to steal Schneider's starting role. But he's a guy that, if we can throw him in for a game and we can still be confident with our team. Now, some people are trying to say the Washington Capitals could be getting a deal done for Roberto Luongo. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Holtby's their guy, and I think they need to give Holtby the chance. He did great in the playoffs last year. He might be off to a slow start, but I don't think there's any reason why the Washington Capitals should be hitting a panic button trying to acquire Roberto Luongo. But, if they are, there's two centers. Brooks he has a no trade clause. He could be a good fill-in second-line center. And also Mike Ribeiro, The only problem with Mike Ribeiro is he becomes a free agent at the end of the season, so it's another big gamble for Gillis if he doesn't want to take it. And then we'll go look at the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're rumored. They obviously wanted Roberto Luongo. I think that this ship has sailed. Gillis wanted Nazem Kadri back. Kadri's played great in his 2 games in Toronto, and I think definitely Dave Nonis does not want to move him. And also the Vancouver Canucks were very much interested in defenseman Jake Gardiner, but it's pretty obvious Nonis does not want to trade him. So I think the deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs is pretty much done. I think we can't rule them out as trading partners because you never know in the National Hockey League. But in my opinion, I don't think there's going to be a deal done there. And then Philadelphia, the whole Ilya Brzgalov mess, it's going to be something that's going to be very tough for them to deal with. But I can't see a deal done with Philadelphia because for them to acquire Roberto Luongo, they first have to get rid of Ilya Brzgalov, and apparently they want the Canucks to take Brzgalov back. And there is no way Mike Gillis can take Ilya Brzgalov back for Roberto Luongo. Brzgalov has a terrible contract, and there's no way they could do that. Because then the Vancouver Canucks would have to go trade Brzgalov again, And now we're trying to trade Brizgalov. He also has a no-trade clause, It would be very tough for the Vancouver Canucks to try moving him. He'd have to like the team. So it would just be a very whole mess if Mike Gillis wants to get involved in that. The Edmonton Oilers are apparently rumored. I don't really see us getting a deal done with Edmonton. Chicago could definitely be a potential trade partner. The only thing is, they're rivals. And Mike Gillis has already said he would love to get Roberto Luongo in the Eastern Conference. And, I think Washington and Florida are two options that get him to the East. And apparently the Ottawa Senators are a team. I cannot see Ottawa being interested in Roberto Luongo. Craig Anderson has started off great. And, I think Craig Anderson is proving that he's a starting goalie. And I think they should just keep rolling with Craig Anderson. So, touching a lot on this Roberto Luongo subject, also Alan Vigneault, who's going to be giving for Wednesday versus Calgary. Corey Schneider's getting the start. Giving Alex Burrows is going to play his first time in his career. He's going to be a center. So there's something for the meantime. And now we'll drift away from the Vancouver Canucks and Roberto Luongo saga because it's going to be all over the place for a while. And we will go with the New York Islanders and Niederreiter, who has requested a trade out of New York. He feels he's not been given an opportunity in New York. So this kind of comes as a surprise to me. He was in 2011 drafted 5th overall, a bright piece of the future in New York. And now a lot of teams would love to acquire this guy. And I'm just gonna put something out there. Do you think, I don't know, does anyone think there's a possibility the Columbus Blue Jackets might be gunning for this guy? And if people don't know what the history behind him is, him and Ryan Johansson. Johansson was selected one spot before Niederreiter was taken. He was taken 4th overall in 2011 by the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, here's the history between these two. Johansson and Niederreiter both played for the Portland Winterhawks for the WHL that draft year. They played on the same line. They were good buds. They were a 1-2 punch in Portland. Is there a shot that Columbus Blue Jackets are going to try getting them and try bringing this 1-2 punch back from Portland and bring them to the Columbus Blue Jackets? I think it'd be a great idea. But I don't know if Columbus really has a lot of trade pieces. But New York, I don't think, is pressured at all. He wants out, but I don't think there's any pressure the New York Islanders need to get rid of this guy just because he wants out. They might try reasoning with him. But overall, I think Columbus should go gun for it. So that's just something to throw out there. And thanks, guys, for listening to my first ever podcast. I am done.